thing I'm saying because I was muted. It doesn't really matter. Answers by guess. This is answers by guess halftime adjustments. You can see right there 6.5. If you were watching this and saw me blabbering, I forgot to take it off of mute. What I'm saying is, we're the inside scoop from outside the box. Remember to like and follow us on Facebook. Subscribe on YouTube, please. That's the one that's going to help us the most. TikTok, we don't too much of, although we should. X, Patreon, and Spotify. Patreon, we had a bunch of patrons last year, and they canceled the subscription during the off season, which is smart. But nobody signed up again, so I haven't had too many PMs to really engage with throughout this season, which is disappointing. But also, if you're here and you're watching just me, you know the story. Rob, super busy, has only been with us once or twice this year. Actually made a surprise appearance not too long ago. Marty's been helping us out, but he's been busy. So it's just me for the second week in a row. And then last week, the main show on Sunday, we couldn't do. So I'm really big. The presentation is really small. I could probably mess around with that, do something like this. Why not? Let's get into it. I feel like last week was the most normal week so far that we've had in the NFL this season. I felt like a lot of things were sort of status quo. Guys that hadn't really done much or had sort of flirted with hitting their potential did so last week. Wasn't too many crazy outliers. A lot of the guys that wasn't too high on the beginning of the year continued to sort of show their colors. So hopefully that's a flow for the guys that have been using these guys like Javonte, Debo. He had the injury though, of course. And then a couple guys rose to the occasion and compounded on a solid week 5 to have 2 good weeks in a row, like Lad McConkey. So I think you continue. One thing I've noticed, and I've sort of said this in the shows, I don't know who the one viewer is watching, but I wish you would make a comment, say hello. If there's more than one, a couple hellos, comments, likes, shares, mad face, make fun of me, yell at me, do something. It's going to help the algorithm. But one of the things that I've been sort of keying in on for myself this year, especially, and sort of saying on Answers by Guess, is that when you draft first 4 weeks, especially when you draft these guys, first 4 weeks, especially, you don't want to be pulling out of the lineup. And for 9 years that we've been doing this, that's the ebb and flow. The guy doesn't do anything week 1. He's like your 3rd round draft pick. You pull him out of the lineup week 2, he goes off. Or maybe he has 2 bad weeks, you pull him out. Week 3, he goes off. You just got to sort of stay the course with these guys because sooner or later they're going to have their big week. And far too often we see that big week happen on the bench. So that's sort of, thank you, Jeremy, for making a comment. We'll get that up on the screen shortly. But far too often that happens. It's happened to me. It's happened to every single person. So this year, I'm kind of just staying with my guys, and I'm preaching that I feel like that is the smartest thing to do until the wheels fall off and you have some consistency elsewhere. Up until this past week, we haven't seen too much consistency. Few guys like Bijan, the beef brisket, and I don't know if that's what Marty was talking about, but I do call Wan'Dale the bologna sandwich. And listen, we didn't have a Sunday show, so I didn't really get to talk about it. Listen, Wan'Dale Robinson, it was a terrible missed tackle by the Eagles. 5-yard route like he normally runs. Terrible missed tackle, and he ran an extra 30, 35 yards after they scored a touchdown. Other than that, he did nothing. He was a bologna sandwich on white bread. I don't even know if there was mayo on it. So I'm staying the course. That's him. My Debo situation, Jason, he asked Debo or Lad. He wanted a 10-paragraph essay. I gave him 10 bullet points. One of those bullet points I was wrong on because I was busy all weekend and didn't realize that Terry McLaurin was out. So then I said, well, then, you sort of go with your gut. But I made 9 very good points other than that to go with Ladd. I'm hoping he went with Ladd, but I got really sad today when he showed his starting lineup and Ladd was not in it. So I hope he won. But that's the thing. We got to go with our guts no matter what I say. And your gut was your draft. That was your big gut. And you drafted guys for a reason, so you got to stick with them. Let's get to Jeremy's question real quick before we get into anything else. You can see it in the bottom right, but I'm going to look down at it with you. Are we worried about Barkley? No. I'm at a point where I might try to move him and Chase Brown. You have JCM, Woody, Vidal, and Benson when he gets back. I don't think I would do that. JCM was okay last night. He was good the week before. It's clear he's their starter and their main back, like they said he would be. And they've continued to be proven right with what they said. The Woody thing, their offensive line is still a mess. He's still their best running back. Vidal, Hampton's going to be back. Vidal did what we've been saying for the past 2 seasons that he was capable of doing, but it was against a relatively easy defense to do it against. And Benson, when he comes back, we'll talk more about the Bengals backfield in a row. But listen, if you're getting rid of Barkley and or Chase Brown, get something good. I get the Chase Brown debacle. It was the first week with Flacco, but they were better in the second half. Now, granted, they were playing my Packers, and all they do is lose leads in the second half. So take that with a grain of salt. But I'm not moving either one of them because in my mind, they're still your 1 and 2, which is exactly what I sort of opened up the show talking about. The JCM, the Woody are solid. When Benson gets back, we'll talk about it. In the Vidal show, I mean, you got to remember who he did it against. And it's sort of like Rico. The whole Rico situation. Listen, I'm not taking anything away from him. He had a really good year last year for the Cowboys. And then, this year, the past 2 games for the Panthers, but he's had some really easy competition. Vidal last week did this against the Dolphins, who are terrible against the run. Let's see him do it against a better team. I'm not sure who they play next week. That's what I was looking for. I haven't gotten into next. So against the Colts, and they're at home, so he might have some success on the ground. But still, Hampton's going to be back, and he's going to go do a 3rd down role, if anything. Not overreacting with the Vidal. He was a 5 guy for your eye He was a couple weeks ago. He was last week. He was a bridge bonus. We've been talking about him for 2 seasons. We love him. He did what we thought he could do once they finally gave him the ball. Excuse me, because all last year, whenever they used him, and early this year when they called him up before they had to use him last week, they didn't give him a chance. And they gave him a chance. It was against a soft defense, so we can't overreact. Jeremy, if I'm you, what I do is I sell Vidal now. His value is probably as high as it's ever going to be. That's who you trade away. Now I got my dehumidifier on. I got to shut that off, and I thought I did. Getting old, this is what happens. So let me do that. But that's what I'd be looking to do. Just a guy in the basement, dehumidifier. But Vidal is the right move because right now his value is so high. So that's who you look to move. Maybe you couple him up with a wide receiver you don't need and try and get a more solid, consistent, and I'm talking about playing time consistent running back. That's what I would do. Barkley's game was Barkley's game. The Giants made a point to take him out of the game. And I mean, it is what it is. He's going to be just fine. If you're worried about anything, it's a sort of re-injury after his big year last year. But I feel like you'd be trading down at this point or selling low. We don't want to sell low. You want to sell high. And Vidal is about as high as it gets at this point in time. So, my Gazette, here's my news and notes. How sexy is this man? I'm telling you, I hope it continues. I hope the MVP comes to fruition. I'm a Green Bay Packers fan, but I would love for the Bucks to win the Super Bowl with Baker, just for all the haters. I mean, this dude, the Browns deserve what they're sitting in at this moment for what they did to him. It was never really his fault. I'll die to my grave saying that a lot of Odell's antics at that point. He dropped a ton of passes and got Baker basically kicked out of there at the same time that Odell got kicked out of there. So then bounced around League Carolina. They don't know what the hell they're doing. For the Rams, they didn't need him because they had Stafford, but he had a pretty good time with them. We all saw that game on whether it was Thanksgiving or Christmas that one year, the big come from behind victory. And he's been killing it for the Bucks. And they were almost in the Super Bowl. I mean, a game or two away last year. So I'm hoping, and he's killing it, and I love it. And his weapons keep getting hurt, but he keeps on grinding. So we'll see. Maybe Mike Evans comes back next week and gives them a hand. These two guys, another sell high. First off, he's saying, and I guess he's always said, his name is Scattaboo, and that's what they're calling him. That's Scatabo to me. I read names as they are written. I'll call him Scattaboo, but he's Scatabo. It's not Boo Jackson, the two sport athletes. Bo Jackson. That's what it is at the end of his name. There's one O. That's a Bo. I think he likes the Boo because it sounds cool. But either way, these two guys, I'm fine with it. I'm a Giant hater, but I'm fine with these two. I really dislike the Giants, the Eli days, which is weird because I was a big Eli fan when he played for Ole Miss in college. Back when I actually enjoyed college football, I don't really so much anymore. But I love it. But there are some parallels out there about these two and their antics and shirts off and hand symbols, and then people hating on Shedeur Sanders. I get it. Everybody wants to bring race and politics and everything into things, but these two guys are going to change the face of the Giants, but I wish that they would be a little less this. And I know some people love this, and I love this. But this was a game where on a short week, they got a division rival at home, and they looked really good. I mean, the week before, did they not just get their butts kicked by New Orleans? They did, right? I mean, I can look it up, but hopefully 3 people now watching, correct me if I'm wrong, but the Saints of all teams kicked their butt. So this type of thing, it was a big game. I get it. Live in the moment. I'm a fan of them, not a hater of any type of showboating. But we talked about Vidal as a sell high. Scattaboo. Maybe a nice sell high moment for him as well. And I get it. People are like, oh, are you kidding me? He's amazing. He runs people over. He scored 3 touchdowns, only 1 touchdown away from Al Bundy's record at Polk High. I get it. But you want to sell high, and you could sell him and get a very, very nice piece at this point in time. And about Dart, I agree with what Marty said. I see a little bit of Baker in him. He's got the legs more so. And I really, really like it. And whoever it was, I don't remember who it was, Josue, I think it was had FOMO, fear of missing out with him. And so far you're getting it. I mean, last week. But let's not forget 2 weeks ago when they lost to the Saints and looked terrible. So we all have this recency mindset, because what's going to happen is, I mean, again, I haven't looked at week 7 yet too much. Obviously, a Thursday night game, looked ahead for some 5 guys, but let me just see here. I got to see. Giants. Giants are at Denver. All right. So, like, what do we think is going to happen? We'll talk more about it when we do the big show this weekend, but just right there on paper, like, what, this is the perfect scenario for everybody's laughing at the Giants getting their butts kicked by the Saints. And then they do this on the national stage, and they're the best team ever. These 2 guys are the greatest thing ever. What did somebody call them? Arm and Hammer. Arm and Hammer, I think, is a great nickname for these 2, Arm and Hammer. And obviously, you know who's who. But then the next week, Everyone's like, oh, I had Scatterboo on my bench. I got to put him in. And now they're going to Denver to play. I mean, the script is written. We'll see. We'll see how my feelings go when I analyze the game. But I mean, on paper, first glance, how do you think it's going to go? I would love for him to run over the Broncos and further solidify this name for himself. But on a Tuesday, I would not be surprised if he falls on his face against this team trying to run the ball and dart the same. We'll see. We should have stayed in bed. That's Bo Nix, and that's Justin Fields. We should have stayed in bed. That game was so terrible, so boring, so ugly, so sloppy, just garbage. There was a safety, bunch of field goals. I mean, I'm all for a defensive battle, but that was more like a non-offensive, very offensive performance. And it stinks. And now Garrett Wilson's hurt. So maybe my number 1 5 guy for your eye next, excuse me, last week, Aaron Smith comes to fruition. And I think the Jets, again, not sure on the week 7 slate, but I'm almost positive they're playing against a nice defense. Is it Carolina? I think so. So Mason Taylor, they give up a lot to the tight end, so he's somebody that you should want to take an eye on. But Arian Smith just missed a big touchdown last week. They're getting him more and more involved. I know that Tyler Johnson and a couple other guys were doing some things in that game, if you want to call it a game, last week. But keep an eye on that with no Garrett Wilson, and it can't be worse for these two. And I just talked about the Broncos playing at home against the Giants, coming off of this game. I mean, they're going to be angry a little bit, even with the win. There's Kyler. My God, Arizona looked better with Jacoby Brissett. Kyler Murray might be the problem. And we've kind of thought that for some time. We've always liked Kyler. He never really does it when he should. And sometimes he'll explode. He dies away. But we've also seen this before, too, with backup veteran quarterbacks. Excuse me. Also backup rookies or young guys. They come in the game their first start and they have some success. And now teams are going by week 7 like, oh, should I pick up Jacoby Brissett? Yeah, he looked pretty good last week. And he falls on his face and looks terrible because he shows who he is. And he had the one lightning in a bottle game, and it goes away. But Jacoby's had success over the years. He's washed. But that right there, little mini Kyler, I think is the biggest issue for Arizona at this point because, I mean, Harrison got hurt, but had he not gotten hurt, I mean, McBride scored a touchdown. The running backs, again, we'll talk about them in a few minutes. Good luck there. No, that's all I'll say. But it was interesting to see this team look good offensively, better than they have, I think, pretty much this entire season without Kyler in there. And that's worrisome. If you own Kyler in Dynasty Leagues, I feel like he'd be better off in a better place, like Las Vegas, playing for the Athletics. Thank you that he's coming back. AZ Sports, thank you for this graphic that I'm using. Please don't sue me because I got no money. I do have these, though, that you could help me make some money. You could buy one of these hoodies or these T-shirts. I'll even do buy one, get one free at this point in time. I got some decals. I got some inventory of shirts. You want one? Send me a message. But Lamar's coming back, and that's good because the Ravens have looked absolutely terrible, wasteful of all the talented players you have for them. But with Lamar coming back, things are going to flip, and help's on the way. NFL's a week-to-week league. I touched on it with the Giants. I mean, and the Jaguars. The Jags go on Monday night, and they beat Kansas City, and then the next week they did what they did last week. And it's just like you can't rely too much on what happened the week before to hope for success. It's so many things that go into it, and I'm not telling you news at all, but that's again, Jeremy, why Vidal killed it. And he's their running back till Hampton comes back. He's going to continue to do it, but he's going to have tougher matchups. He's not playing Miami every single week. Now there's game tape on him, a full game tape. And I feel like the Colts will make some adjustments for him. Will they be 100% successful? Probably not. Will Vidal be as successful as he was last week? Probably not. Could he be? Sure. But he's a sell high guy because a lot of people are looking at last week is going to be what happens this week. And I mean, we've seen that's not how it is. I mean, I'm not talking about this year. I'm talking about this is since the beginning of time, at least since the mediocrity, or what's the word I'm looking for? Maybe if somebody could type it and help the algorithm, where every team is kind of good. Can't think of the word, but I'm not going to spend too much time on it. Either way, this is why we sort of look ahead and we try to prognosticate what do we think is going to happen based on matchups, use a little bit of history, but remember, none of that means anything. Week 6 is over. We're on to week 7. And that's Ladd. So 2 good weeks in a row. No Quentin Johnson, surely helping him. And we'll see if this continues. I think it will. And I mentioned it. I thought he would have a really big blow-up game week 5. I said it on here. I said, love Ladd this week. And he scored a touchdown. He had like 50 yards, but I thought it would be double that. And then last week, as I mentioned in Jason's post, I said, I feel like I was a week early. And sure enough, he got a touchdown. He doubled that. So I think that if you were a Ladd McConkey drafter and you stuck with him, I think now is when you have to continue to stick with him. And he's somebody who 2 weeks ago, I was like, I'm trying to get him. And I said last week, I'm trying to get A.J. Brown. So it's the same sort of feeling because the Eagles just walked into a buzzsaw last week that they were not prepared for on the road on a short week, and the Giants just punched them in the mouth. I feel like they'll correct things. They'll get back to what they do best. It'll be using Barkley, utilizing A.J. Brown, and the rest will be history. We'll find out. First question. William say needs to drop and pick up someone. Very hard to see what he's got there, but I kind of know. And Rob, thank you, Rob. He got on there before I did and was like, dude, just put Kincaid, who he has as his tight end, even though he's on bye, he still says out, put him in IR, and then just pick somebody up. And William said, I'll try that. And he tried it and it worked. So now all he has to do is pick somebody up. So I didn't see the point of showing his lineup. Listen, if Njoku is out or even seriously limited throughout the week, Fannin is a great choice. If Egbuka's hurt and Evans doesn't come back, is another great choice. Mason Taylor has a great matchup, but for my money, although this week might not be the best, Kincaid has been relatively hit or miss, and he's dealt with injuries sort of throughout his career where he's in and out. Knox has a big game. Everybody wants to lick everything Dawson Knox till they pass out. So you might want another tight end just to have for the rest of the season. And what better choice is there than Kyle Pitts? He had his bye week in week 5. Didn't have to use him too much last night, but before that, he was being utilized quite often. I think he's a season-long pick. That's who I'd pick up because now I know I can just use Kyle Pitts. If Kincaid's out after the bye, I can use Kyle Pitts. I don't have to worry about another bye week. But for just a single week, I think I would go with Fannin. I kind of like him because they use him as a wide receiver. They can hand him off the ball. He'll be their tight end if Njoku doesn't play. I know Rob suggested Cade Otton, which is a fine play as well. But we've seen him disappear. But without the wide receivers, then you got to use them. But the thing with these two guys and Taylor as well, unless I'm forgetting something, I feel like they all will have their bye at some point. So I'm thinking about, I know Kincaid's on a bye. I know he might be hurt after the bye. In case he is, I want somebody who I can use the next 2 weeks until Kincaid comes back, and that would be Kyle Pitts. One other question. Oh, this was Jason's question. So, Jason, I did say that I would answer off the air. This is lineup. It's really hard to see it. To make things bigger, I was messing around with some of these pictures as far as my stupid face and the PowerPoint here, just to try and get a sweet spot. But then I decided to go live a little early, so I didn't get to it. I'm looking at his team and what I mentioned to him. And D. Smitty, I'll get to your questions in just a minute. Put them big on the screen for you. I told him I'll answer him off the air because he's wondering about his starting lineup. He's wondering about who should he drop and pick up, any waiver wire guys. And I'm looking at his team, and I'm looking at it, and I'm like, this looks like a 10-man league. At the very least 12, or most 12. Because if it's bigger than a 10, I think that he has an outstanding team. And there's not really too many moves to make, especially not knowing what's on the waiver wire because of size of league. So I said I'll answer it off the air, but I'm looking at this, and I typically play in either 14-team leagues, or if they're a 12-team league, they have large benches, so you draft the same amount of players as you would in a 14-team league because they're dynasties. So the guys on my waiver wire would not be the guys on yours. I'm deep diving. And that's kind of what allows me to look for 5 guys in for your eyes, because I'm looking at guys that probably are not rostered in a 14-team league or are just sitting on the edge of a bench in a 14-team. And I'm like, well, I wish I had that guy on my team. And I doubt most people playing in 10 or 12 have even heard of this guy or know that he exists. So that's a 5 guy. So I told him, let me see what's on the waiver wire, and maybe we can pick up and drop. But in my eyes, that's a really solid team. So here we are, 5 guys for your eyes. These are week 7 lookers. And drum roll, please. Look away. Please look away from those Arizona running backs. Just don't even look. You could peek. You could squeeze through the eyeball. But my gosh, I mean, it started off, everybody was hot for Amari. Amari would have had the biggest game, drops the football, but actually crossed the goal line, which I talked about last week, but they didn't even bother reviewing. They didn't even show the replay that shows the ball in his hand over the line. Funny business. But before that, they said Carter would be the starter, so people were all over Carter. But I said, we've seen Carter before. I was a fan of Carter early on as a Jet, but he just doesn't do it. He just didn't do it. And what does people do this week? They maybe bench DeMarcado because they figure he's going to get the shaft from the coach. And maybe they play Michael Carter because of injuries. And what happens? Bam night out of nowhere. Right. And I had my eye sort on him. He was almost would have been talked about if we did a big show last week, but I would have just said, just stay away from these guys because they have Zonovan Knight sitting there. So who knows? And lo and behold, that's what happened. And Benson's going to be back. So it's just like, forget about these guys. Just forget about them. Stop trying to catch the lightning in a bottle. This is not the team. I talked about it. They look terrible with Kyler. They look better than they have at all this year with Jacoby Brissett. It's just not anything I want to be a part of. If it's not Marvin Harrison or Trey McBride, I kind of want nothing to do with this team at this point. They seem just a little lost in the sauce. Number 4, Jalen Coker. Why not? Right? I'm going to say, why him? Well, why not? He had a good end of the year last year, came back from injury, got a little mixed in. Tet is the dude. We knew that going into the year that he would be. Leggett flashed last week. I'm talking week 5. Um, but Bryce is starting to be the Bryce that I thought he might be, and I hope this continues. Again, a lot of it has to do with the matchups, and like we said, he's been good the past 2 weeks. Some come from behind victories, getting the wide receivers and everyone else involved. Rico's been killing it, but against soft defenses. He's another person that I would probably try and trade high. I would try and trade Rico, Cam Scattaboo, and Vidal, the 3 biggest, sexiest men for all the fantasy players that they're like, oh, why didn't I draft this guy? Why didn't I pick up this guy? They all wish they had him right now because they had the 3 best weeks aside from Bijan. That's who I'd be looking to trade. So whatever, I digress. I'm getting off tangent here. Coker I like because they could use another guy, and he showed he could do it last year. He was gone with injury. He's now got a game or 2 under his belt. If you're looking for a wide receiver, maybe you've been using Debo or Marvin Harrison, and you're going to have to get somebody to fill in. It's a guy to look at. It's kind of a layup. Not as much of a layup as this one. Michael Penix, I like what I saw last night. He looked like, again, week to week, but he looked like they were letting him have a little freedom, and he was loose, and he was okay getting the running backs the ball. He was okay getting Drake London the ball, throwing tight, tough passes to him, not relying so much on Kyle Pitts as he's done early on. And I loved him in college so much at Washington. I remember watching, I don't watch college football much, but I remember once it gets towards the end of the year, I'll pay attention to a couple teams, and I started watching Washington games for whatever reasons 2 years ago. And I was like, dude, this guy is just ridiculous. So saw glimpses of him getting into that. It's tough. These guys play college football, and then they get to the pros, and everybody's good, and it takes a little bit of time. So bye week fill-in, injury fill-in, I was a little, I'll admit it, week 2 or so, I was like, I don't know, he might not be the answer. Kirk Cousins was on a 5 guy, but I don't think it's going to happen now because I think he really turned the corner last night. He looked sharp, he looked confident, he looked loose, and I haven't seen that from him at all this year. Oronde Gadsden for the Chargers. They need some youth at tight end, and with the injuries, and Keenan Allen at some point is going to be on that list. Herbert likes throwing his tight ends, and Tyler Conklin's not going to be the answer. And this guy had a big game last week, but I had my eye on him. I think it was it Trey McKitty? Correct me if I'm wrong. Was he like that big, huge dude from, I think, a year or 2 ago? Am I thinking the right guy? Whatever. Maybe not. Parham was another one. I think Oronde Gadsden is a guy if you're looking for a tight end. So not so much a Williams case because, again, this is a 5 guy. This is a guy when things are bleak or starting to look bleak, and it's worse than Williams' options. William had great options. He had Kyle Pitts. He had and Fan and Mason Taylor. Those guys aren't available. I'm just going to throw a dart at Oronde Gadsden because I like what I saw out of him when I was watching that game on Sunday. And Luther Burden, I mean, I tried to pick him up, but my problem was the guys I wanted to drop had already played, so I couldn't. He had a pretty good, decent game last night. Now it's a couple good games in a row. They could use a solid number 3, and I think he's turning into it. And you can't really see it, but underneath those comments says, and he soon may be the number 2. Look, the Bears won, so that keeps them sort of going. But if it starts to take a downturn within the next 3 weeks before the trade deadline, and they can get rid of DJ Moore, I think the Bears would be okay doing that and just rolling right in. I know Moore was better than Odunze last night, but if they can just get something for DJ Moore and keep Odunze and Burden as their number 2, I think they'd be okay with that. He's a high-profile draft pick for them, and he's finally starting to get a little more burn, getting a little more involved in each game. I know he was a name early on. He was with the Dante Thorntons, who the Raiders still don't use for some reason. But he's a guy that you should have your eye on. You should at least know that name. So before we get into the Thursday matchups, start two running backs, Monty, White, or Brees. Again, on a Tuesday, Smitty, this is not your first time with us. And I appreciate that you have subscribed. And I know you subscribe because you always know when we're live and you always join. And I thank you so much for that because you are one of the true YouTube members of the Answers by Guest family. So I thank you very much for that and always joining. But on a Tuesday, as you know, I haven't looked too much into the week 7 matchups aside from the one that we're going to get to, the Thursday game. So I got to look up who they're playing. I know that Detroit's got a matchup against the Bucks, which means that's Monty and White, but I don't know who the Jets are playing. Carolina. All right. So I'm playing Brees against Carolina 100%. And I think that Monty's probably your better choice. If they get close, I know they give it to Gibbs, but I would go with Monty and Brees on a Tuesday night. And you want to start 2 wide receivers. A boy Rashi coming back. Nico coming off the bye. Houston got this week. Monday night game part 2. That's going to be tough going against the Seahawks with that bad offensive line. I think I'm probably going to stick with Aaron Rodgers on the Thursday game against Cincinnati and DK. So I'm going DK and Rice. I'm playing Rice in his first game back. And again, this is on a Tuesday. But DK is going to have to stay. He's going to have to stay. I'm sticking with him because the Thursday game. So then it'll come down between Rice and Nico. And I think taking a shot with Rice in his first game back is probably the right move to make. They're going to be at home. The fans are going to be excited to see them. They're playing against a division rival in the Raiders, who they can do work on them. I know that the Raiders typically play them tough, but a lot of times that's on the road when the Raiders are at home. And their Chiefs right now are kind of rolling. And we kind of saw that coming a couple weeks ago. I think it was when I was live. I think Rob joined the one time he joined. He's like, Patrick Mahomes doesn't really look good. I'm starting to think blah, blah, blah. And I was like, I kind of think the opposite. I think he's about to get rolling. And he started to get rolling, and it's going to roll right into this home game at home against the Raiders. Rice is coming back. I'm going Rice, and I'm going DK. And I don't think anything's going to change that. I don't think that with Nico playing on the road in Seattle against the 12th man, I'm really nervous about their offensive line in that game. I know things could change once I really start to look at the numbers and analyze it before the weekend. But I think I would write that one in marker, not in pencil. Let's see what Jeremy says. He thinks the problem is he's more focused on fantasy points over stats. Yes and no. We're playing fantasy, so worry about fantasy points. I'm not 100% sure what you're saying. Maybe I'll leave this up here and maybe other people can clarify, or maybe Jeremy can. My whole thing is, this was Jeremy's initial question. He was thinking he might try and move Chase and Barkley. And I was like, I think you should try and move Vidal. His value is as high as I think it's going to be right now. And maybe Scatterboo, maybe his value goes up. Rico, I think his value is sky high. Chuba's going to come back, but I think it'll be a two-headed monster at this point. And Rico's outplayed Chuba, but against two very soft defenses. What was it, Dallas and Miami, if I'm not mistaken? That's about as easy as it gets. I think the value on Vidal, Scatterboo, and Rico are two guys that you should be looking to move right now. I know it's tough. I get it. You get these guys, they blow up, they help you get a win, they look amazing, but everybody else sees the same exact thing you do. And when your soul is being like, I'm so glad I have this, I can never get rid of you, and you hug them like a teddy bear and you're 6 years old or 4 years old, you're 8 years old. But sometimes you got to let it go and sell when it's high. And I think those three guys, I'm not saying they're going to suck, but I'm saying their value is just so ridiculously high right now that I think that's where you could make some moves, getting rid of those guys. The worst thing you can do is sell Saquon after that Thursday night game and sell Chase Brown with what's going on there. But they looked better in the second half once Flacco started to get into a little bit of a groove. And he didn't look bad running the ball, too. He carved up Green Bay on a couple plays, a couple big 8+ yard runs. He means some players have good games, but they don't translate into high-end fantasy points. Okay, I get what you're saying. All right, so two different sports. Yeah, no, I hear you. But, I mean, Barkley didn't really have a good game. But you don't want to sell low. You don't want to sell low. You want to sell high. Sometimes if it hits rock bottom and you're like, oh man, I should have sold them. All right. So you take the loss. But I would rather sell these guys high and get some equity in return for them. So the Thursday game is going to be the Steelers at the Bengals. Steelers are -5.5. Over under is 43.5. I do think the Bengals looked better in the second half. I said that a couple times against the Packers. I do still feel like they're a little overmatched here, but them being at home, I think will keep them competitive. And if you're wondering who are these two dudes on the bottom, well, for the Steelers, that's Roman Wilson. Coming into the game, I know DK is a little banged up, so just watch that, Smitty. But I think he'll be fine. He's not going to miss this one. But also Calvin Austin's a little. And Mike Tomlin kind of hinted at stay tuned type of, hold on type of scenario with Roman Wilson. People are asking questions like, dude, you spent a second round pick or whatever you did 2 years ago. He was injured last year, and now you're just not using him. He had an amazing preseason, and he was just, I mean, to paraphrase, we got a lot of games left. And Roman Wilson was somebody I was really high on going into the season. They've yet to really get him involved. And I think a lot of that has to do with Aaron Rodgers. I really do. We all know Aaron. I love Aaron Rodgers as a former Packer. I love him as a person, too. Some people have their own feelings about it. But he's fickle, I think is probably the word. He wants his guys to do what he wants them to do when he wants them to do it. And if they don't, then he doesn't want them around him. And I think it's a lot of that. Roman Wilson kind of playing more with the backup type of thing in the preseason because Aaron Rodgers didn't play, and that's why he looks so good. But then when they get into practice, he's not doing things that Aaron wants him to do. But sounds like it's starting to sort of turn the corner. He's getting a little bit of snappage here and there. And I just think as the season goes on, he's somebody that can't put on the five guys, but he's definitely got to have your eye on. And it wouldn't surprise me, especially if they get a big lead and it's later in the game, Roman Wilson comes in and does a few things. Then people are going to want to pick him up. And that might not translate into week 8 anything because the way the game was. But if he does get those under his belt and gets more snaps, then they have stuff on tape and then they can say, okay, we can use him in this situation in the first half. I think Roman Wilson is somebody that people have forgotten about as we've gone through 6 weeks of 2025. And I'm watching him this Thursday night. And on the right-hand side with the Bengals, that's Noah Fant. Why? Because he is one of 4 tight ends that the Bengals like to play, but Gesicki's hurt, Tanner Hudson's hurt. So now it's just down to Noah Fant and Andrew Sample. And we've seen Sample from time to time come out and steal touchdowns. He's like the vulturous tight end that there is. And I really Drew Sample, sorry. And I really liked him years ago before a couple of the other guys that they've had. But Fant has flashed, and he's the most athletic and best uh, tight end, healthiest that they have at this point. And I think that they're going to. Joe Flacco likes to throw to his tight ends. I think Noah Fant can have a nice game. So these are like prop bets. If you want to throw $10 down on a couple overs for these two guys, yardage and receptions, I think that the odds on that would be very high, and you could sneak something in. They're not so much fantasy guys that you use this week, but it's two guys I'm keeping my eye on in this game. I want to say that the Bengals are going to stay in it. It's a division game. They're at home. Something keeps telling me it's not going to be, but I will say this. The whole world is starting to love the fact that the Steelers are doing this good and have this good of a record with Aaron Rodgers, while the Jets are 0-5 without him, or 0-6, whatever it is. And it would just make complete sense, complete NFL scenario that the Bengals win this game and Aaron Rodgers loses, and then all that talk is squashed. I would not be surprised. I wouldn't touch this game at all with the spread. The over-under, probably I'd touch the over. But if you're worried about your fantasy guys, I'm playing DK. I think Jaylen Warren's probably he's gonna be playing until I hear otherwise. Maybe you can tell me I'm wrong. But I would be fine using him against the Bengals for sure. Their tight ends have kind of died off. I mean, Jonnu and Freiermuth sort of eat into each other like the Bengals guys do. And I'm fine playing Higgins and Chase. They both look great. Once Flacco got into a groove, they were doing fine. They were putting up fantasy points and stats like Jeremy was just talking about. So I think, and Chase Brown too. I know the Steelers have a really good defense. They haven't played like the best this year, however, and on the road against a division rival. Joe Flacco's had some success against the Steelers when he played for the Browns, so it's not going to be new to him. The team is new. He had a couple days practice with them, and in the second half, he looked a lot more comfortable. And I think that comfort's going to continue to snowball here. And I think this game could be a good one for fantasy purposes. I really do. Last week was okay. The Eagles disappointed a little bit. The Giants obviously much better, but I think this one's going to be good sort of for both sides. But I'm keeping an eye on these two. These two are two that I'm going to look at for props, because Roman Wilson's probably 2 catches, probably like 19 yards at most. And Fant might be 3 catches, 25 yards. And I think both of them could hit those. So if you're looking for something cheap with good odds, throw them in a parlay, all 4 of them. And if you're feeling real sexy, maybe a touchdown for Fant, because I could see that happening as well. And that'll really boost your odds. But that's about it. That's all I got. 50-minute show, answers with guests. This is week 6.5. This is answers by guests. I got hoodies. I got t-shirts. I'm going to do buy one, get one free for the rest of the week. Until Sunday morning, if you got some extra change laying around, you want to buy a hoodie, I'll give you 2 hoodies for the price of 1. You want to buy a t-shirt, I'll give you 2 t-shirts for the price of 1. Buy a hoodie, I'll give you a free t-shirt. Whatever you want to do. I got some extras. I got to get rid of them. And if you don't, that's okay. Patreon is live. We got no subscribers this year. If you want your answers, your questions answered via PM, that's where it happens. So, no more questions. Thank you for joining. It'll probably be a Saturday night show again, because I think we have a Sunday, early Sunday game as well. Let me just double check that. Yes, we do. The Rams versus the London Jaguars. So I'll see you Saturday night. Have a good one.